visioning plan set out to answer a simple but critical question. What kind of a future do we want for this corridor? The answer is clear. It's not about a road. It's about people and co-creating a thriving place to live, work, and travel safely while supporting jobs, housing, and the environment. Some of you might be wondering, what and where is the Sunrise Corridor? You may have heard it mentioned in the past. It's been around for a long time. But just to orient ourselves before we jump into the plan, I'll share that for purposes of this visioning project, we define the corridor as the area east of I-205, west of 172nd Avenue in Happy Valley, and north of the Clackamas River. Highway 212 that runs east-west through this corridor is part of one of the busiest east-west freight routes in the entire state and is the main route to Mount Hood, connecting to Happy Valley, one of the fastest growing cities in the state. The corridor is critical to supporting housing and economic growth for the region and the state. The vision plan was built around what the community told us matters most. 4 themes rose to the top: jobs and economic opportunity, strong identity and livability of neighborhoods and places, access to open space and healthy environment, and transportation that is safe and connected. These are not abstract ideas. They're concrete priorities that residents, businesses, and community leaders identified through workshops, surveys, focus groups, and meetings. The vision is about balancing these needs, so the Sunrise Corridor grows in a way that reflects the people who live and work there while aligning with regional and statewide goals for housing, jobs, safety, and climate. One of the most important outcomes of the vision plan is that it gives us a clear, measurable picture of what this corridor can deliver for Oregonians. The plan identifies the capacity to support over 17,000 new homes, which is critical at a time when the state is focused on housing production. It also supports the creation of more than 14,000 permanent new jobs, building on this area's role as a regionally significant industrial area. But it's not just about housing and jobs. The vision plan also includes 32 acres of environmental restoration, 27 acres of open space, 16 acres set aside for development, demonstrating a balance between growth and stewardship. On the transportation side, the plan shows how we can deliver 7 miles of new sidewalks, 5 miles of bike lanes, 3 miles of multi-use paths, and 17 improved bus stops, greatly improving access to transit. As you've already heard today, but I'll reiterate, this vision plan wasn't created by one agency just working alone. It's the product of a broad coalition. Clackamas County, Metro, the City of Happy Valley, ODOT, TriMet, all working together with community members, businesses, and nonprofit partners. We convened a steering committee, a technical advisory committee, and a leadership cohort made up of residents and community leaders who brought their lived experience and ideas to the table. This collaborative approach is what gives the plan legitimacy and momentum. It reflects not just technical expertise, but also the voices of the people who live and work in the corridor every single day. That coalition is now carrying the work forward, ensuring that the plan does not just sit on a shelf, but turns into real projects on the ground. One of the biggest shifts coming out of this vision plan is that we now have a revised concept for the Sunrise Corridor that isn't all or nothing. Some of you may be familiar with ODOT's currently approved FEIS alternative for this corridor, which is an 8-lane freeway paralleling existing Highway 212. I want to be clear that there is no appetite for an 8-lane freeway paralleling Highway 212 in this corridor. Through this process, we developed a new systems-based approach that breaks the investment into manageable pieces, each with independent utility. This concept includes local, county, and state facilities working together to support the multimodal needs of the entire community. The smallest segments are about $30 million. These are projects that can stand alone, deliver safety and connectivity benefits, and build momentum as additional funding becomes available. This phased approach makes Sunrise far more achievable. It allows us to celebrate progress along the way, align with regional and statewide priorities, and demonstrate success that can attract larger investments, the larger investments we'll need over time. The Sunrise Vision Plan is also directly aligned with priorities that the legislature has set at the state level. It supports the creation of 17,000 homes and more than 14,000 jobs, a direct response to Oregon's housing and economic development goals. It improves safety on one of the state's busiest east-west freight corridors, reducing crashes while keeping goods moving for business statewide. And it advances our climate and community goals by restoring natural areas, adding tree canopy, and building safe options for walking, biking, and transit. Sunrise is more than a local project. It is a corridor that delivers on housing, jobs, safety, freight, and livability for the entire state. One of the most powerful outcomes of this work has been the creation of the Sunrise Corridor Community Coalition. This coalition brings together residents, businesses, community leaders, and local government to ensure that the vision plan moves forward into action. A coalition leadership group made up of community members with lived experience in the corridor has formed and meets monthly to guide priorities, elevate community needs, and champion projects from the vision plan. But rather than just hearing this from me, you've heard a lot from me, I'd love for you to hear from two of our members that have participated through the process. Two of those members here today are both coalition leadership group members, and they'd like to bring their perspective from the community and the steering committee.
Great. Good afternoon, co-chairs and members of the committee. My name is Marshall Paholski, and I served on the Sunrise Community Leadership Cohort, and I currently serve on the Sunrise Community Coalition Leadership Group. I am here today as a community member, not as an elected official or an agency representative, and I want to share why this process mattered so much to people like me. In the history of this area, big transportation decisions often were made around us, not with us. The legislature's investment created a new way of doing things, where everyday residents like me were invited to shape the future of the corridor. Through the leadership cohort, I worked alongside neighbors, small businesses, youth, and local leaders. Our lived experience, from traffic safety concerns to the need for more affordable housing to wanting better access to jobs, became part of the plan itself. This was not just a box-checking exercise. What it did was it built trust. It showed that state resources could be used to elevate community voices and to ensure that the plan reflects not just technical data, but the hopes and the priorities of people who live there. And I would like to thank you for making this possible. Your investment has created a paradigm shift that allowed residents like me to have a true seat at the table and created a model for where development and community come together. Thanks for the opportunity.
Good afternoon, co-chairs and members of the committee. My name is Mark Osland, and I served on the Sunrise Steering Committee and now participate in the Coalition Leadership Group. My perspective comes from the long-term business and civic side of the corridor. What makes the Sunrise Vision Plan so important is that it looks beyond transportation. Yes, it addresses congestion and safety of Highway 212, but it also creates the foundation for housing, growth, economic opportunity, and livability. It identifies how 17,000 new homes can be built near employment centers, schools, and services, while also restoring rivers and natural spaces that define our community. From the steering committee's vantage point, this process gave local leaders and community partners the real voice in balancing those priorities. It aligned business needs with environmental stewardship and connected our economic future with transportation choices. For us, the legislature's investment proved that planning can be collaborative, transparent, and results-oriented. Now, as we shift to implementation, we are carrying forward with some spirit of partnership into the coalition's work. Thank you.
Before we close, we'd love to thank you for your leadership and your investment. As you've heard over and over again today, your investment of $4 million is what made this vision plan possible. And today you can see the results. A community-driven plan that delivers on housing, jobs, safety, freight, and livability. The Sunrise Corridor is no longer just an idea on paper. It's a coalition. It's a set of phased, fundable projects, and it's a pathway to meeting Oregon's most urgent priorities. Together, we have the opportunity to turn this vision into action and to show how community, partnership, and state leadership can deliver long-lasting results. Thank you to all of our panelists for sharing your perspectives and experiences today. What you've heard today reflects the collective effort of community members, local leaders, and partners working together to move this vision forward. At this point, we would love to pause and invite your questions and comments. Co-chairs McLean and Pham and members of the committee, we are very grateful for this opportunity to speak with you today.
I want to thank all of our partners for being here and for the presentation. At this time, are there any questions for our panel or panels, if they're still on? Okay, I'm going to start right here with Representative Mannix and then go over here to Senator Starr.
Basically, I just want to thank you for an encouraging presentation and a wonderful plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Starr.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. I appreciate it. Great presentation. Happen to have a little bit of my hand in the original Sunrise Corridor project, $100 million enterprise. So of all of the additional investments, are they all within the urban growth boundary?
Yes, co-chairs McLean, Pham, and Senator Starr. Thank you for that question. Everything within the project area is inside the urban growth boundary. Yes,
So follow-up question?
yes.
Madam
Yes.
Chair? Thank you. So the numbers are great. I mean, 17,000 new homes, 14,000 jobs. One of the other issues that challenges that we see is providing infrastructure to unlock, those new homes, those new businesses, that development. I think it said 16 acres of new development are open. Can we talk a little bit about, are they annexed to a local city? Is this in Clackamas County? Beyond the highway piece of this, the development piece is kind of the other side of that conversation. It's super exciting, right? So transportation we want to fund the roads and paths and all that stuff, but the other side of that is infrastructure. Is there a plan to make sure water and sewer and all of those other things are available so that that other side of the coin gets done? Thank you, Madam Co-Chair.
Co-chairs McLean and Pham, Senator Starr, thanks for that question as well. Yes, absolutely. We have been thinking about that. We included participants from all of the provision services out there in that area, wanting to make sure folks knew that this was coming and that we can all be having one conversation. There's already a tremendous amount of work going on from WES, our Water Environmental Services Group, to make sure that we have the water services that we need out there. We're also closely collaborating with Happy Valley to make sure we're supporting the upstream needs for all of the other services. Infrastructure is expensive, and we acknowledge that. Building this coalition will help us advocate for the pieces that are critical to make these strides forward. So I think we have the pieces in place. We just need to continue to work forward together to make the incremental plan come true. But yeah, thank you so much for the question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. We also have our other three panelists who are either in the room or online, so if there are other questions, we can try to allow them to give an answer. So are there any other questions for any of the six panelists? Yes, please.
Thank you, Co-Chair. I just wanted to express my appreciation for sharing this community vision. I represent the district just north of this corridor, and it reminds me of a lot of the planning that was done along 82nd Avenue, and I just know how powerful it is when you bring community members and all different stakeholders together. Even without the money, I think it's actually the vision that we need first, so thank you for your work on this.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Seeing no more questions for you, I'm going to thank you for being with us today, and thank you for letting us know about all your work in energy. I also am someone who heard about the Sunrise Corridor all the way back to being on JPAC. So it's a good story, though, because there's a lot of really good work and information that have been done over the years that I think are going to complement everything that this particular group helped work with. So thank you so much. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
So I'm going to close the portion of this meeting that is on the Sunrise Corridor visioning process, and now we're going to go to an informational item. And please remember that all of us have indicated that safety is important to us, and so anytime we get an offer for some information about safety, no matter what kind of safety, and I'd like to invite out the Waymo autonomous vehicle rollout safety presentation. And I think we have only one individual here with us today for that. But this talks a little bit about technology and how it also is going to be part of the mix as we go forward with different types of vehicles that are going to be on the road and part of our system in a multimodal way with technology that will allow for a little different perspective of who's on the road and the safety elements around it. So remembering that we are a multimodal system and we care about bikes and ped and all types of transit and freight trucks and light vehicles, we want to find out what technology can do in the way of safety. And so I'd like you to introduce yourself, and you have the floor.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Co-Chair McLean, Co-Chair Pham, members of the committee, very much appreciate the opportunity to present to you today. For the record, my name is Michael McGee. I manage Waymo's policy engagements on the West Coast and, of course, here in Oregon. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about autonomous vehicles more broadly and then Waymo in specific today. So making sure that there we go. Is it possible to have the slides up on the screen here? Or?
Just had them a second ago.
Oh.
There they are.
Thank you. So my presentation is going to break into basically three components today. Number one, I'll talk a little bit about who we are as a company, where we come from, what our history is, and what the mission of the company has been. I'll explain a little bit then about the technology, how a self-driving car performs the self-driving task. And then finally, I'll talk a little bit about what it looks like to have autonomous vehicles in your community, what type of benefits it brings, the sustainability, the accessibility, and of course, the safety piece. Throughout this presentation, safety is going to be one of the biggest key issues that I focus on. Safety is Waymo's North Star. It is the ultimate goal of our company. It's the reason that our company existed to begin with. Our mission is to be the world's most trusted driver. You can't be the world's most trusted driver if you're not the world's safest driver. Talking a little bit about why self-driving came to be, why did this project initiate to begin with? Simply put, the status quo on our roads today is not great, to put it lightly. Over 50 million injuries, over 1.35 million deaths worldwide on roadways. One of the saddest parts of this, I think, is that half of those deaths are from folks that are not in vehicles. It's pedestrians, it's cyclists, it's motorcyclists. So whether or not you're choosing to drive a vehicle, you're impacted by the safety of our roadways. This is the problem that Waymo has set out to solve. This is what we're trying to address. The top causes of any sort of accident or fatality on roadways are very preventable. The vast majority of accidents come from speeding, folks driving too fast. They come from distraction, folks texting while they're driving, folks driving while they're tired or drowsy, or folks driving while they're under the influence of alcohol. Autonomous vehicles address all of these issues. We program our vehicles so that they literally do not ever speed. They will always follow the posted speed limit. They don't get distracted. They don't get tired. Our fleet is 100% electric vehicles. There is no concept of drowsiness with an AV. And of course, a self-driving car is not really capable of driving under the influence of alcohol. A little bit about our history, where we come from. One of the big things that I like to point out about this slide is that we've been doing this since 2009. I think a lot of times folks tend to think that this is a brand new technology that's just being piloted in the last year or two. That's not the case. We've spent over a decade building this technology in research and development. In 2011, we started developing our own sensor suite, and I'll talk a little bit about that in the next couple slides. But that was where we moved from using existing LiDAR, radar cameras that were built for other purposes to building in-house sensors that are specific to the self-driving task. In 2013, we decided to focus on fully autonomous driving. I'll explain a little bit more about what fully autonomous refers to, but essentially it means that there's no one in the driver's seat. You'll see different levels of autonomous vehicles, and some of them are more driver assistance systems. versus a fully autonomous vehicle, which means there is no one in the driver's seat. A quick note on why we decided to focus on that. I mentioned safety is going to kind of permeate throughout this presentation. What we found when we were testing the driver assistance systems in the early days is that what we refer to as the handoff problem, when a vehicle is driving and then it encounters something that it can't figure out and it says, actually, human driver, you need to take over, that handoff doesn't work well. Human drivers tend to get distracted when the car is doing the driving task. They start focusing on other things. In our tests, we saw folks that were falling asleep even while this was happening. And then you imagine the scenario where the vehicle would say, wait, wake up, figure out exactly what's going on, what the instance that we need you to solve is, take control of the vehicle, and do the right thing is. Simply didn't work. So that was the decision to then focus on fully autonomous driving. And then 2017 is when we started doing our sort of limited testing that was publicly available in Phoenix, Arizona. And 2021 and beyond, we've turned our attention to really scaling the technology, being in as many cities as possible, and bringing the safety and other benefits to those communities. To that point, this is a brief snapshot of where we are today. So we operate in 5 major cities. We're in Phoenix, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Atlanta, and Austin, Texas. I make that point that we are in 5 major cities. We've been operating publicly for over 5 years in those cities with fully available, not the limited testing program that I referenced in 2017, but 5 years of fully publicly available rides. Today, we do over 250,000 rides every week. That's over 1 million rides per month. And we've driven over 100 million miles fully autonomously on public roads. So again, not a brand new technology, not an untested technology. As you can see in the bottom there, a number of cities coming online soon. Some of these are set to happen in the next couple of months. Some of these are cities that we're still in conversations with. But like I mentioned, very interested in scaling this technology and bringing it to as many folks as possible. The next slide I'm going to show you, I think, is the most important slide.
I'm going to have to interrupt you for a
Please.
minute, and I apologize for doing it.
No worries.
But we've had a very busy group of House members today, and they've been with conflicting schedules and at different meetings. And if we have 4 of them in the room, then I'm going to be asking to stop, which is right now.
And adopt the rules,
And
Madam
we're
Chair.
going to do the rules real quickly, so in case somebody leaves again, I don't have an opportunity to do a rules vote. So at this time, thank you for being patient. And Madam Co-Chair.
Just recess the informational. and open the
Okay,
organ.
so of course, Patrick says we must recess the informational meeting. We will now open the organizational meeting, and my co-chair is going to give us a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the proposed committee rules dated October 1st, 2025.
Thank you very much. And will staff tell us if there are any changes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. These are functionally similar and identical to the rules we've operated under in past interims. However, the reason we're doing this is because it was pointed out to us that while our committee rules allow for us to take testimony with less than a quorum present, those are our committee rules, and until we adopt them, those rules do not apply. So we have to adopt the rules before we can technically undertake testimony without quorum. And now that we have a quorum here, it's moot, of course, but that's the best practice. So that's why
Okay.
we're asked to do this immediately, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. So we will be parliamentary correct if you would vote yes. So think about it. And any comments or questions? No comments or questions. Are there any objections to passing the rules? Seeing no objections, the motion passes. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to close the organizational meeting. I'm going to open the informational meeting. We are back to Waymo and safety and technology. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. It's an excellent dramatic pause going into what I was saying is going to be the most important slide that I'll show today. So like I said, we're operating in 5 major cities. We've driven over 100 million miles on public roads. What we've seen over those 100 million miles is this safety result. So compared to a human driver in the same cities, this is getting as close as possible to an apples-to-apples comparison. We're comparing the Waymo's driving performance to a human's driving performance in San Francisco, not comparing one city to another or something like that. We've seen 91% fewer serious injury or worse crashes That is a massive reduction in injury-causing crashes. 79, excuse me, fewer airbag deployment crashes, 80% fewer injury-causing crashes. One point to note about this, on the top right there, you can see waymo.com/safety. We have a large amount of folks at our company that focus on the transparency effort here on our safety research. I'm happy to share more of that information with all of you in your offices, but I would encourage you to take a look at that website. We post all of the data that we're required to report to NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, to DMVs and the jurisdictions where we operate. We post our methodology. You can go and review the analysis that we've done. It's been peer reviewed. It's been published in journals that are not just coming from the company itself. So a really, really huge safety benefit to the communities that we're operating in. And I mentioned earlier, we're not just making roads safer for those that are taking Waymo. It's not just a safety benefit for our customers only. There's a safety benefit for cyclists, for pedestrians, for motorcyclists, for other vulnerable road users. I myself am a cyclist in my hometown. I spend a lot of time on the bike. Waymo makes it a lot more possible to commute, to get around by bicycle when you don't have to worry about as much of a possibility of getting into an injury-causing accident. I understand you all have organizations. I know there's a big focus on the cycling community in Portland. We've been in conversations with Oregon Street Trust, making sure that those folks understand the benefits that we can bring in making their cities more walkable, more bikeable, because of the safety benefits that we have. Jumping into a little bit of what an autonomous vehicle is, the technical aspects of it. I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide. It can go down a rabbit hole. But these are the 5 levels of driver automation. These are from SAE, the Society of Automotive Engineers, not from Waymo itself. And so levels 1, 2, and 3, these are driver assist systems. So I mentioned earlier, focusing on that fully autonomous, meaning nobody in the driver's seat. Levels 1, 2, and 3 all have a human in the driver's seat. That person's responsible for the driving task. If anything happens, ultimately they're the one that's in control of the vehicle. Levels 4 and 5, there's no human driver. That is the fully autonomous side of levels of autonomy. So this is important. One thing to note, in other states where we've seen legislation that authorizes the deployment of autonomous vehicles, the SAE levels are often referenced in the actual bill text as a third party to point to. And it's really key on understanding who ultimately, like I said, is responsible for controlling the vehicle. A little bit about how the Waymo car does what it does. So this slide is all about our sensor suite. We use 3 types of sensors. We use LiDAR, radar, and cameras, calling them vision systems on the slide here. We also use microphones. Microphones are very useful for our first responder and law enforcement interaction. So they help with hearing sirens when those are coming up, which let us know that it's appropriate to pull to the side of the road, yield to an emergency vehicle. The microphones also help with law enforcement interaction. You might have seen videos of law enforcement officers talking to a Waymo, or more accurately, talking to one of our remote support agents about the Waymo and what it's doing, so that they can do the job they need to do. On the sensor suite, each sensor is doing a little bit of a different role. So LiDAR is basically viewing the physical world for the vehicle. It's seeing where trees, where curbs, where pedestrians, where other vehicles are. Radar is very useful for determining speed. If you're going to make an unprotected left turn with oncoming traffic, you want to know if the oncoming traffic is going 90 miles an hour or 25 miles an hour. And then cameras are very important for basically a lot of high fidelity, filling in the gaps between LiDAR and radar. But the other thing that cameras do really well is see color. That's important for red, yellow, green, for understanding stoplights, stop signs, things like that. So each of those sensors is doing one part of the puzzle. This is the hardware suite that makes up the self-driving task. I'll talk also about the software, but these are the sensors that you'll see on a Waymo vehicle. The dome on top that has the LiDAR, the cameras that surround it that give it 360-degree vision. I don't think our animation on this one is playing, but I'll send this out afterwards. This is not a simulation. This is a real world instance. You can see a dog chasing a ball into the middle of the street there. What this is illustrating is that, actually this works quite well. When the top right is the LiDAR view of the vehicle, and you can actually see two pedestrians right here that are about to chase this dog who's chasing his ball into the street. You'll notice the bottom is the camera view. That's what a human driver would see. You cannot see the pedestrians until the pedestrians are in the path of travel of the vehicle being illuminated by the headlights. No way to see them. The Waymo has picked up the pedestrians before in this animation and ends up slamming on its brakes, preventing what could have been a really tragic collision. So I talked about the hardware suite, the sensors, the job that they're performing.